Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:33. Let's do the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Janet. Yeah.
This may be one of the last times you're going to be able to do it because I understand that it's going before the selectmen.
It's already been before the select, but that's only for the select board meeting, not here.
Wow, okay.
Okay. Heavenly Father, we just come to you in the name of Jesus, Lord. We just thank you for this day. I ask God that you bless this board tonight, you give them the wisdom that they need to conduct the business before this town. It needs to be conducted. We just thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Roll call.
John Mullen here.
Janet Kayla here.
Michael Green.
Christine Maynard here.
Okay, any opening remarks? Okay, what?
No, I can talk about it.
Okay. Review of the minutes from May 25th. Since we only got them tonight, I suggest we table them until our next meeting.
I make a motion we table the review of minutes of May 25th until our next regular scheduled meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Excellent minutes, man.
All right. New business. I received a letter from the state regarding Chuck Terrio, and it's confusing as to what he wants to do. On one part of the letter, he's looking for a retail dealer license and registration. On the back side, it's checked off that he wants to be a repairer, and there's all kinds of rumors going around as to what he wants to do. So, I have put a letter together, and I'll read it into the minutes, that the planning board is in receipt of the notification of application as referenced above, and the reference was DMV application for retail dealer license. In order for the chair to sign this request, the board will schedule you for the next regular meeting, planning board meeting, on July 13th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. At that time, you will have the opportunity to present your plan with a written narrative. This is not a public hearing, but a preliminary meeting to address your business plan. And then I'll sign this letter. Sound good? Anybody got any?
No.
Okay,
I have a question.
go for it.
What map and lot is it? Map and lot?
I have no idea. There's
Is it
nothing.
another
There is
one?
nothing here that's a thing that's bothering me. We don't know where he's going to do it.
Is it a rural residential?
Yes, it's rural residential. 120 Ridge Road is the only thing I have on it.
Thank you.
Robin, I would like this sent out certified with a return receipt. I have the copy, so you don't need to make one. Next business is, we want to discuss, you want to start with the planning board application?
Yeah, if I can find it.
How about,
Yeah, I do.
you got it?
Yeah. What, if you remember a couple meetings ago, I was talking about our application for a subdivision, a site plan, lot line adjustment, that kind of stuff. And our application is very brief, and it doesn't give us a lot of information. It also does not provide the applicant sufficient guidance on the things that we need when we review an application. So I decided to make a proposal to redo the application that we have and try to combine some so that it's one. But I'm not going to propose combining all of them. We have an application for a merged lot, which was done, I don't know, few years ago.
No, we did one last year.
Okay, so it's in there, and I think we should just keep that one. But this application, and I don't think we need to make a decision on this right away, but you want to pass those down. Take a look at it, and It's for subdivisions, major or minor, or an open space application, site plan review, major, minor, or lot line adjustment, and then an amendment of approval subdivision site plan. Where I took this proposed application for, and all the requirements that are in here are referenced back on the checklist to our various portions where it's asked, somewhere in here. Some of they pertain to our review of an application. So there's also some other things in here. It gives the applicant, as we did in the current application, what kind of documents we're looking for. Butters list, plan sizes, PDF. We've had to ask the last two applicants for a PDF copy. And the reason we want that is we want all applications and documents on a PDF so we can post them online on the web so that everybody can look at them. So there's some other things in here. The abutters list is just a typical format that we use. Now, some towns have a form, it's called authorization to enter upon a subject property. That just, the applicant gives and the authority for the planning board to come and do a site review. I don't think we can just walk on the property. I don't think we can do that without permission. So some towns have an actual document where the applicant signs, says, okay, you can come on there, it's not a problem. Owner's authorization, who's the representative, that's kind of a common thing. Some applicants may want a waiver request, and I'll tell you what I did here. You'll notice on here, this is basically taken from the town of Nottingham and their planning board, so I just noticed that I still have town of Nottingham in here where it's supposed to be town of Middleton. So we'll get that corrected. But this is a subdivision regulation and article, and they'd like a waiver for it, which they can request. Also, a certificate of monument installation, and I think these has to do with, there's another one here, has to do with pins and that kind of stuff. And now, the other thing was the land use project fee schedule. I have in this draft here just to be determined because I don't know exactly what those are. We can fill those in, or we can say, we can put it on a separate sheet and see appendix. We can do that because it might change. Then we wouldn't have to change the whole document.
So these are fees that come to the town?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are land use project fees. So
Okay.
for a subdivision, we charge X number of dollars when they come in, it's
Right.
whatever it is. Lot line adjustment, I think is $50.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, public notice for local newspapers, what we should change that to is per the current rate. Let's see, fees for recording per the current rate for L-chip, whatever that may change right now.
No, felt chips 25.
$25, right. But we may want to put a statement in there for, like for example, abutters in your mailing list, whatever the current fee is.
I think if you left it generic, like whatever current fee, like,
Yeah.
yeah, so then that way you're not having to constantly,
Right, we don't have to
Change.
redo this thing, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But the fees to
Right,
register fees,
Yeah,
I have all those right here.
okay, so then I also have impact fees down here, and that's to be determined. And I put it on there because we're probably going to, well, I can't say.
At some
We're
point in
leaning
time.
that, I'm leaning that way, I don't know about anybody else. I changed my mind a little bit on that one. So, the checklist back here. This is pretty extensive of how we would go through a subdivision, a site plan, major, minor. It's pretty long, but these are the things that we need to check. And for a subdivision like we've done with the Hertel property, yes?
Yep.
Just a comment, this is your checklist to make sure that you have everything in order or given to the applicant.
Yep.
You want to may want to put some sort of disclaimer that there might be other things required because mistakes are often made on these checklists and you have to cover your bases that you might have missed something. So,
Okay, I'll make a note.
you know what I mean? We've gotten into trouble in the past with checklists. Because it wasn't on the checklist, but it's in the document and.
Or what if you just put on the bottom, like,
Something, general guidelines
Yeah.
for
Other,
major things you need, just as something.
Checklist is only a guide and other, yeah, okay.
Something like that.
All you can do is just
You might
change the
not
wording
consider
on
that,
this.
that's all.
This checklist may not be complete.
Something like that.
Yeah, checklist.
or subject to, this could change without
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah,
The
subject.
checklist shall be completed and returned as part of the original
Right, the
duplication.
checklist may not be complete.
However,
Other things may be required.
other information may be required.
General guidelines.
That's a good,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Okay, so I would suggest that you look this over and we can talk about it at the next meeting. There's no hurry to do this that I see, but it's just trying to, the main purpose really is to help the applicant fill out a better application than us sitting here and saying, well, you know, Jeff, you need this, we need that, we need that, we need
It did
this.
exist at one time.
What's that?
It did exist.
Oh, I do have a checklist, but, that we use, but I don't think it's given to the applicant. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, so you want to go on and talk about impact fees?
Sure. Impact fees. We had that discussion with Mr. Roberge, and I thought that was very, very informative in terms of what he said. His comments concerning us being a small town, we don't have a lot of growth. No matter what you see, we don't have a lot of growth. We could. We have brand new subdivided properties with maybe 20 lots, maybe. My gut feel is saying those 20 lots are not going to be sold all in the next couple, 4 or 5 years. I don't think so. It could be. If it does, right?
Well, the ones over on New Durham Road that this one person has is still,
Yeah. So what he,
I don't even think
the
they've gone
bottom,
up yet.
yeah, he did talk about it does require some administration. You're going to have somebody that, and I think the law states it's the treasurer that is responsible for holding the monies. As far as the administration of doing it, it's a matter of creating some kind of record keeping, like an Excel spreadsheet that you keep, because projects, if they don't, let's say you put in an impact fee for a school addition, okay? And the school addition is never done, let's say that an impact fee is assigned today. And the school doesn't do anything on the addition, for whatever reason. It's turned down, whatever its reason. If nothing happens within 6 years, we have to refund the money that was collected. So if we assign a fee for a residential building, a new building, we can sometimes, some towns do it by a flat fee, some do it by square foot, some do if you add an addition, if you add a bedroom, that's another person, they do it. So he felt that in terms, the question I asked is the calculation of the fee itself. and the process is the most difficult part of the impact fee. There are 88 plus municipalities, and cities and villages and towns that have impact fees on their ordinances. So it would be easy for us to find an ordinance wordage and just modify it to our own. The issue is the calculation. How do you fairly calculate the fee? Because you better have a defined process on how that is done. Because you can't just willy-nilly say, okay, we're going to say for the school it's going to be $4,000. So I as a resident, well, how'd you get that number? Then I can chart, I mean, I can question it.
That calculation hasn't been, must have been written. Must be
No,
said.
No,
they're
they
buried all over
vary.
the place. It takes a lot of information. What he said, I said, well, okay, let me ask you this. How much does it cost for you to do a calculation ordinance type of thing? $25,000. Now, what he really said and summarized in the meeting is, you need to get impact fees, because if you think you're going to do a school addition, you might as well if you don't have the impact fees,
You don't have the ordinance.
you don't have the ordinance, you can't charge anything. So you can always find a way to get the calculation done in time to do that. And even if you collect $40,000, that would help pay for the bond. That might be 1 year's payment, whatever the bond is. I don't know what the bond is per year. I have no idea.
Like $300,000.
Okay, well, 40,000 is 40,000. I mean, I said that would even buy half a bus.
Yeah,
Some money's better than no money.
that's right.
Well, that's the point. But he said you got to get the ordinance in. And you can put in there that calculation will be determined per circumstance or something to that effect.
Why the simplest calculation are all of those 88?
Well, the calculations I've seen, you look at growth and they look at square footage and how many people are in the town and all this other kind of
Once
gobbledygook.
you do it once, it gets simpler.
Well, once you get it done, now what happens, you got to review this every 10 years. You should. So most towns have consultants like him come in.
So would you do that with your master plan?
What's that?
Would you do that with your master plan?
Yeah, you could do that as your
Ideally.
master plan.
Master
Yeah,
plan
and what you're basically doing is updating your fees.
But it went with the capital improvement program.
That's what I
Yeah.
was just gonna say, goes with the capital improvement.
And you can't have impact fees unless you have a capital.
Capital improvement.
Right.
Which makes sense.
So my suggestion is that we, at our June 22nd meeting,
Yep,
we really start looking at a drafting of an ordinance.
yep.
And what I can do is, Farmington has an ordinance, but they don't impose
Enforce,
it.
they don't impose the
They don't
calculations.
impose an impact fee. In other words, the ordinance is there. I don't know why they don't. do
And
that.
somebody raised an issue too, because like if you subdivide what you're gonna do, this project comes in and you get these fees, and you put them in whatever the calculations are to the
Escrow.
fire, yeah, the escrow accounts, but the fire, the police, the school,
Recreation.
yeah, recreation.
Roads.
The thing, no, you can't do it for roads.
Roads are a bond.
Yeah, roads have, we found, Mark told us that last week.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
But you get all these fees, you're gonna impose them on single-family homes, and you're gonna hit some people, older people maybe, with money for a school that they're not even gonna use. So you gotta find a way around that as well. You don't wanna charge a senior citizen to build a new school or an addition. That was raised last week, so how do you get
You
around
can
it?
exempt certain
Yeah,
classes of residents.
right.
Would you put an impact fee on a single-family home? I thought it was generally used in large,
No,
No,
even.
single-family home, a
single-family-
commercial addition, and the fees can be determined if they actually impact
That department.
the school. So let's say you have an impact fee on an additional bedroom. But this additional bedroom is not going to currently impact the school because the residents in there are, let's say, senior age, and they're not theoretically, I mean, something to that effect. They're not, their building is not going to adversely affect or impact any of the infrastructure issues.
Well, if you look at Dover had a really good one, and their breakdown is pretty well done. And it did like single family, multifamily.
Yeah,
And then it even did like, you know, a commercial building.
yeah.
And I believe that like commercial buildings, I don't think they had to pay any part of the school portion.
Probably not, yeah.
So like, and it broke down like how much, it broke down what type of building it was, but then it also broke down how much for each
Was it a percentage?
portion.
An impact fee.
It would, they
is a
actually
percentage
don't
of the
have an
cost.
actual dollar
Dollar
amount
amount.
attached to like each thing. So if it was like a single family, it was like,
4,000.
it was, you know, let's say like, you know, $4,000, and then we have the breakdown for each thing it was funding. And then if it was a multifamily, it would be a different cost.
So, for example, a senior living housing unit, you wouldn't charge them. You could waive the school fee.
Okay, that makes sense, that makes
And
sense.
that you would have to decide. I mean, there's a possibility that senior housing.
So my
units-
only thought and question to that, because we had talked about that a little bit at the last meeting, was, so say, because there's that potential of maybe that 55 plus, and then there was talk of like that potentially being waived to not have to pay the school
The
part.
school part.
But
right.
my question is that there are many times where people move in and they're in that 55 plus community, and then all of a sudden they have, you know, their grandkids move in with them. How do you take care of and enforce
That
that?
falls to the owner of the mobile home park.
Yeah,
And if he has it written in that this is how it is and this is how it is, what is it, Tara Estates up on Route 11,
yeah.
they will not let anybody in. If they find them, you're evicted.
But even that takes a process, and then, you know,
But that doesn't fall to us. Any cost for that process goes to the owner, not to us.
but what I'm saying is, but even if we didn't charge that impact fee portion, and let's say you had 3 or 4 houses with that happening, and it does happen, and then you still get, and those kids move in, and then they enroll in the school,
So,
the school's still hitting,
you're right.
they're still, where the town and
But
the
that was the
taxpayers.
question that we had the last meeting.
Yeah,
And that's, we got to look into that part of it. But to answer a question that Kate had, an impact fee on a building, whether it's a single-family home or a mobile home park, is based on the cost of the project, as to how much it is. Then once you get that, then it's divided up by percentage into where it has to go.
See, you look at your capital, what determines your impact fee is your capital,
Improvements.
your capital budget, whatever that may be.
Right.
The time frame, your growth rate, however they figure that. But you're 55 and older, what do you do? There was a 55 and older community put up over by Home Depot and Hannaford on the other side of 16 a while back. And they started either leasing, subletting under 55. So what do you,
That's
does,
for the town to go after.
well, you'd have to say somehow that it has to be, can't be a sublet, whatever. If it's a sublet, then it's full shot, whatever that.
Right.
Those things you'd have to
The
work.
town has to take that subject, it's on the burden of the town to take them to court.
Well, we put things in
I always
the
wondered about
ordinance.
that, I don't know.
we put things in, I would say we'd put things in the ordinance to cover most issues that might pop up.
Yeah.
And your answer to roads, you can't use impact fees for that, but on a project like the mobile home park, we can impose a bond on them for any road repairs.
And you must.
Absolutely.
impose a bond.
I pushed that before, when we were talking about a golf club, resort, remember?
Yeah, that was done.
Yeah, we have bond on.
Yeah, it was done. So, impact fees, we just need to make sure that we get an ordinance written that we agree upon.
That calculations are to be
The
determined.
calculations it can be however we word it. We should pass that through the attorney,
Yeah.
as all zoning ordinances should be, to clarify, and that's what I think. And then get it on the warrant for March.
Yep,
So we already have one, which is the aquifer thing. May I say something about that,
go
though?
for it.
We approved the
Aquifer.
aquifer ordinances as it was supplied by
Stratford Regional
Stratford
Planning.
Regional. When I was printing it out, I pulled it up, and I use Grammarly. You know Grammarly? It's a software program that it's like any Word program that corrects your spelling, punctuation.
Oh, spell
Like,
check.
It's a little higher than a spell check.
Yeah, I know, but
So I ran the whole document, and I changed a little few things in there that, so if we want to look at that again, we can.
As to the aquifer, I would like you to have this thought about the parameters of where, we have one stratified drift aquifer in town. It encompasses the area underneath a portion where it goes 153 in Moose Brook. Now, it's a very important water resource, that we've got a road going right through the middle of it. But I think that we have a lot of issues in our ordinance about the parameters of different districts. They're not
you got a copy of that, didn't
a
you?
lot of clear cut left. Yeah, I did get a copy of it, but it mentions USGS survey, and I understand what they're talking about, but I mean, these are things that we lose sight of. And
Right.
there's one reference in the zoning board about the national planning of 1977, and some of these issues existed when I was on the board, and we tried to get through them, and obviously weren't successful. But I just want you guys looking at the ordinance with an eye to the parameters of each of these districts, the aquifer, the wetlands is defined
Okay.
by the soils.
It says in here, talk about boundaries. It's on the first page.
Yeah, I know it's in there, but I'm wondering if that's adequate, and how are you going to maintain that?
So I have a question about the other ordinance, while John's looking at that.
What other ordinance?
Well, so for the impact fees.
Yep.
And how he was saying that Farmington doesn't,
They have the impact fees, and they have it broken out the way they want it.
uh,
They do not impose, they choose to not impose them. You don't have to impose them if you don't want to,
so
but they're
my,
there for our benefit.
is there verbiage there that says that they can impose at any time? Because, okay, because my only thought is if we went to something like that and we didn't do it for 5-6 years, and then all of a sudden somebody came in and we put it in place, that they would say, well, you never did it before, and then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you know, you're changing the rules because of me.
Yep.
Is there verbiage there that says, you know, we
Yeah.
can choose and pick and choose what?
Farmington's got a good one.
Yeah, it doesn't seem quite fair, does it?
No.
You charge Christine for her.
And that's kind of what I like envision
Now you're
happening.
making me pay?
Yeah,
That's like you come along and you tell me my porch, my ballasts have to be no more than the width of a 2x4, and the guy across the street's got a 6-foot fence that he's got no permits for, you know, so I mean,
No, that's a whole nother issue.
I know, so I mean, you know, things have to be made so they're fair.
Yeah. Never use that word may implement, may.
you can continue on reading this here. Oh, okay, wait a minute.
And I really wasn't gonna bring it up tonight, because I'm not on the agenda, but, because I thought Terry was gonna be here for
No, the letter going out to him is for him to be here on the 13th. I expected when I got a call last night from Kyle Roy on taking down the post for the Sinovirus or whatever it
that.
was.
Right.
He called me on that, and then he told me that he had been talking to him, so I fully expected him to be here tonight, but
Did you mean the 22nd? He's gonna be here? The
no,
22nd
I'm not doing the 22nd. I scheduled him for the 13th,
of July?
yeah.
Okay.
But we are having a meeting on the 22nd,
Okay.
and I believe Roxanne's not going to be here for that either.
That was July 13th?
Huh?
July 13th?
22nd of July?
June 22nd.
While John's looking, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Are the results of the most recent survey out yet, or are they on the website?
Survey for,
The planning board survey you guys did last year. It was on the,
you mean the tax maps and stuff?
no, it was a survey about, am I losing my mind? Yes.
Don't feel bad,
It's on the website. Don't forget to fill out the, all right, never mind.
No,
What was the survey for?
It was like the general survey, what kind of growth do you want in town? What would you like to see the direction in town?
That was for the master plan.
Right. Oh, is that what you said?
Yeah, that's all done.
Yeah, the master plan is done, but the results of the physical.
The results of those surveys were put into the master plan.
Oh, you did, well, 45 responses and,
Yeah, that's about what they got.
That's all
Yeah.
right, it's fine.
No. Didn't MRI give us, results of that survey?
I think they did.
They did.
I think it was published
I believe, yeah.
Published.
on the planning board website.
Oh, okay.
But if it isn't, I'm sure we have it. That's a good question. I mean,
You know what, it may have been published on our old website,
Oh, and not migrated.
and, well, it may have been migrated, but it may have been, like, migrated, like, in the archives or something. So, because we went to our new website
Yeah, just-
January 1st or something, right? Something like that.
All right, well, that's good. No, I think you answered my question. It exists itself.
When you said survey, I'm talking land survey,
I-
not questionnaire.
Yeah.
And Carol might have that for you, like, she might be able to just pull it right up for you.
okay. Now you got me going.
Wow, nothing you needed to.
He'll be up all night
resolve
now.
tonight with this.
I will. I'll be up all night looking this
Oh,
up.
good Lord.
All right, I'm done.
Okay, what about,
I'll get that.
because I bend over, I won't get back up. What about growth management? You want to get into that?
Honestly, I forgot what he said about it, to be honest with you. What his recommendation was. His most emphatic recommendation was get an ordinance
For impact fees,
for
right?
impact fees. I forgot what he said about did you put him verbatim in there?
I think I did.
What does he say about?
I'm looking,
Talked about it a couple of times.
You can do them both.
right.
He wasn't too enamored with
He kind of inferred that either way, it's
The
not
impact-
going to be one's not going to be better than the other, one's not going to be worse than the other.
Yeah. He seemed
But
neutral.
we have not had that many building permits required. And the question I asked was, what about this mobile home park? that had gone away for a while, and now the guy's back again. And, you know, I've got their plans and everything from their last meeting with us a few months back. But I mean, with all the studies they've got to do, they're not gonna get the number of homes in there that they want. But my question was, how do you treat this? If you put an growth ordinance in this town and you say, well, we're not gonna give out more than 12 building permits a year, how do you do that with a situation like this, with a mobile home park? Not thinking about it, like he said, you could do it in phases. They're not gonna-
Barrington, if they don't still, had a growth management for years, and that's why they look like they do.
Right,
How many do they plan on putting in there?
their plan showed 100. But by the time they do the water studies that I have requested, not just stormwater, but you've got abutters, you're putting in 100 homes, what's it gonna do to the wells of all these private people that have been here all this time?
Driving
You know, among other things, and is there enough water to sustain a park that size? They're not gonna get 100 homes in there. I mean, I don't see that happening. I would say, you know, I'm not gonna be committed to that. I wanna see all the water tests and everything that are done. But they got a long way to go.
That makes me very happy that you considered that.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
They have to do road studies too, don't they?
have to do road studies.
Well, water drawdown.
Yeah. And that was one of my complaints when Chuck was doing the workforce housing. You're gonna have this water tank, where are you drawing this water from? You know, all these people around your
The
property.
assurances that the water exists.
Right,
And there have been towns more south of us.
Yep.
That have, wells have dried up with these projects.
Absolutely.
They didn't consider the groundwater.
Right.
There was the state did a groundwater study recently, but I really don't know, and I've been meaning to look and see what the results of that were.
yep.
Can I ask the resident a question?
Sure.
On the aquifer, what would you suggest in terms of making sure that the boundaries are correct or updated?
Well, we're talking about these stratified, because they talk about two aquifers.
Who's they?
The ordinance talked about two types of aquifers. They refer to like the town in general and all of the individual aquifers that we all draw off from the groundwater. That's how I thought I read that. The stratified drift aquifer is actually a geological formation created back when the earth was created. We have one in this town, and it's located on the U.S. Geological Survey maps, and it's a very important resource, especially if you consider that water is going to be the resource of the future. You know, it's going to be like gold in the future. Fresh
And
water.
the thing you gotta consider with groundwater is, it doesn't run downhill.
No, this
That
is-
groundwater
this is
goes
gold.
through the course of least resistance. It can go sideways, it can run uphill.
Just to put things in perspective, Wakefield has like 10 stratified drift aquifers, created when the glaciers came through.
Right.
That's how old they are. And unfortunately, we only have the one, and
Okay.
the roots go right through the heart of it, so I don't know.
Right.
So, I don't want, we can talk about this.
Yeah, just put a meeting on it.
Yeah, I'm leaning, I agree with you that we need to put something in this ordinance that says, okay, we check, because I don't see anything in here, it talks about boundaries. And it's got a wetland area, and then it says a map area it's on file. Well, how do we know that's
Well, that's
correct?
the thing, these things on file, and they're covered throughout our ordinance.
So,
unfortunately.
to get it corrected, you gotta pay a professional engineer to come and check that.
I don't know if you can, well, no, it's only making assurances that the map that they want to reference exists and is kept safe at the town hall, and that people know what it is, and that it's, you know.
We have the map that was included in this thing is not real circles.
That, the blue, yeah, that's just.
Just
a-
circles,
you
so,
wouldn't want to
okay,
use that.
I'm going
You'd
to.
want something with GPS. I mean, sure,
Well,
I'm sure
granted,
there's a logical
you know,
survey map. which is
DES would have
specific.
something.
Well, look, they tell you in that ordinance how to get one,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just putting out the big, like, is that how you want to go with that? Is that how you want, I want you to look at the ordinance with an eye. Again, you reference a book from 1977 at one point in that ordinance.
Well, thanks, yeah, and here it talks about maps, and recharge areas of a book entitled 1986.
There you go.
Okay, good enough. Good point. All right, what else you got?
Nothing, I'm just looking through the stuff attached to the minutes.
If you're going to get help from Stratford Regional,
Well, yeah, that's a, hello, Autumn,
as, you know,
Autumn.
they've been through our ordinance and it kind
Oh, yeah.
of needs to be met. Because we never get these small little troublesome things, especially if you're the code enforcement guy. You know, where's this area? Where's that area?
Well, that's the first call on me. They have all that stuff, I'm sure.
Or how can you update it? It was fine for the times, but it needs to be
Okay.
changed.
We will take care of it. Thank you.
Well, you know, I don't know, yeah, no thanks, you know, just wondering out loud.
So when we come in on the 22nd, we ought to have something in writing to go over for the impact.
Yes, yeah, I'm gonna try to, I'll put something that together, and then I don't know, I have 10, 12, 15 pound, yeah,
He's put the basics in here for us.
yeah, he did.
Yep.
So, I could go through all those and lay them all out and say, do you like this paragraph, don't like that paragraph?
Right,
Um,
but if you're gonna do that, I wouldn't include like Durham and Dover, I'd keep it to the smaller towns, so
Well-
that they're much closer to us.
Well, the booklet that I gave you
Yep, and I got it.
gives you ultimate options on
Right.
which way to look at stuff. Population growth,
Right.
budgets, school budgets,
Right.
tax rates, growth versus town budgets, which towns. We're surrounded basically with people that have impact fees. Most of the impact fees are south of Concord. Everything else up north, there's no impact fees, hardly at all. And heavy ones are in Hillsborough and Rockingham County, Stratford County. But not everybody in Stratford County has one either. But so I'll have that. That's about 12 days. Is that right?
The 22nd?
That's 2 weeks from today.
I guess I better get going, huh?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
That means no
How the hell am I
gardening on
gonna do
Saturday or
that? Mowing
Sunday.
my lawn and everything else?
So I just said, no gardening on Saturday.
It's been raining, so
I was out there today.
All right, so
Okay.
what about growth management?
What did
Do we have any-
where's
I couldn't find exactly what he said. Look at page 3, start at page 3, the bottom.
I apologize, I didn't sink in, I guess.
And then I've got a question that we need to raise. I know it came down, we were talking about it when I raised the issue
Okay,
of the.
all right, here it is. I asked them your opinion on growth management. I've seen a couple communities have both. Mr. Forget said it's not a fee.
Right,
It's a restriction, it's restriction permits that have backed up by statistics that you'd be harmed in some way. So what some towns say, okay, if we limit building permits if the school population grows by 10%. Or something to that nature, whatever changes in the infrastructure, that sets off a restriction of building permits. It's like an open moratorium, but it's based on,
If you reach a certain
you
level.
reach a certain level, all that does is stop the
And after
growth.
that, you'll only issue so many building permits.
Right, until something changes. And that would be up to the planning board, I guess, to make the change.
Right.
So this is what he said. For example, school is at capacity is a temporary solution. The town has to be committed to actively trying to fix whatever the problem is. You can't just pass it and sit on it. What he said is, you're looking at a lawsuit if that happens. So in other words, if you have these criteria that if the school increases its, right now, they're not at capacity, but they are over on certain grades. So if that certain grade goes up and we put in there and says, okay, we're gonna restrict building permits to 4 instead of unlimited,
That's like putting a moratorium.
and we're not trying to fix it, because the school board may not try to fix it. They may just kick the can down the road. Then you're up for a lawsuit, somebody says, well, you can't restrict building permits. Hertel will come in here and say, what are you doing?
And that's like putting a mini moratorium on things.
Yeah. Janet asked restriction on building permits for 12 a year, and then you have a mobile home park that puts 75. How do you handle that? If you have a GMO that says 12, a growth management ordinance, you can only have 12 for the approval process for that project. You can also have phasing.
Right, that's what I said earlier.
Ask what about bonds and impact fees. If you're looking for, okay, you talked about security bonds on the roads and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Okay, so that's what he said about growth management. He said about, Janet asked about, Mr. Forsythe said about the only, what's this, things that don't come to the board, they're up to the building inspector. Mr. Forsythe, that only comes into play in projects that come to the board for development are being approved as an over 55 community. If you have a building lot and I come in and say, I'm over 55, this is Mr. Forger, I'm exempt from the fee, and the answer is not. You would pay the fees because the building could be sold,
Right,
and you don't know if they have 55 or over ordinance. You would have to put an ordinance that all occupants must be 55 or over. So, if you have a trailer park go up, I guess what they're saying, you better say, if it's over 55, then it has to be over 55, that's the ordinance.
so we have to put the ordinance in place for that.
Yep.
So do
Okay.
we put an ordinance and then would they have to put in like a covenant?
Well, the covenants, covenants
That's not good.
Covenants are worthless. They're only as good as they're enforced. Of course,
Right.
our ordinances are only as good as they're enforced.
The town doesn't enforce covenants.
No,
It's
it's
the people in
the
the,
people
Right.
in
a person has to
the
bring.
person that's involved with, like an association. The only one that can file a grievance is an association member.
Right.
It's a violation of, well, in our case, over where I
Wait a
live,
minute, if it's an over 55, it's a zoning, it's a town ordinance, and the town has.
yeah, the town, yeah, that's a town ordinance,
Yeah.
but if it's in a, if a 55 and over, like Terra Estates,
Yep,
okay? Terra Estates says you can't have, what, children? You can't have children there? Okay, so you can't have children there.
it's over 55.
Somebody comes in with, they won't let them in, first of all, but what if they go in there,
And bring kids.
and then they, 55-year-olds can have children? Say they can. Adoption or whatever.
Let's ask Al Pacino.
Well, just
Yeah, but he's not the one getting pregnant, it's the woman, you know.
takes two to tango.
Takes two.
I realize that.
Anyway,
Well, maybe not
we,
today. I don't know.
we
Strike that from
we
Now you
digress.
can laugh and that takes a moment.
the, yeah.
Okay, so I got another question here that just arose again. Daycare centers. We don't have anything concrete on daycare centers.
Well, before we talk about that, it
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
rolls
we
back
do.
to what I asked about for the 55 plus thing. So
Right.
my concern with the whole impact fee in the 55 plus community and then saying, so this mobile home or whatever you want to call it, 55 plus community that comes in and says, oh, it's going to be 55 plus, no kids, blah, blah, blah. But then, a year or two goes by and you've got, one person that gets custody of their grandkids for whatever reason, and then, it happens, 3 units down, and before you know it, you've got 4 or 5 people in there that have their grandkids. It happens for whatever reason.
But do the rules of the 55 and older community not allow that?
So, well, here's my question though. So if we have an ordinance that says no, but then that community, so what I worry about is the whole, who enforces it and who has to put up with the legal fees, the legal battle and everything else. And then the other thing is that while you're doing that, those kids are still living there, and then if there was an impact fee that was exempted from it, those kids are still going to the school in our town until they're made to move, but our town is still footing the bill and we're still taking on the financial burden on top of
That's-
fighting.
That's a great question for the attorney.
Right on.
You stole the question right out of my mouth. 'Cause I-
Write it out and forward it to me, would you
There
please?
has to be established law because this is a widespread problem.
Yeah.
We see it all.
Yeah.
And still, like, the town's still now hitting the bill, not just for the cost of those kids and then the loss of that impact fee money to help support the school, but then now you're fighting because they're breaking the ordinance rule, whatever it is. So the town's getting hit and the taxpayers are getting hit in every which way.
That's an excellent question for the attorney, and the attorney should give us advice if we go that far.
Yeah.
How do we word something, and how do we mitigate any adverse action against the town? So the other question I would throw up on 55 and older communities, can you legally do that?
What? They're doing it everywhere.
Restrict,
Sure you can.
I suppose you can.
But do you call it a 55 plus community versus like a retirement?
Well, you're setting up, you can call it a retirement community, and the criteria is no more than 2.
Yeah.
You have to be 55 years and old, and you have to prove it. You cannot have individuals under 55 living permanently in the facility.
Yeah.
Is that opening us for litigation, or is that okay?
Or I guess if you also limited to how many bedrooms, if you put, said like.
Well-
I don't understand why you're asking that question, John. They have them all over the place.
They do, but I wonder what those other communities deal with this situation, because you're seeing it happen more and more where,
Well, so you go to the owner of one of these parks, like Tower.
yeah,
Sorry, guys, I'm out of the loop on that one.
yeah.
But go and see if you can see the owner of the park and ask to see how their contracts run, or how their policy is for that park.
Well, and then how they-
That's true. You probably have to sign a contract and break
Right.
down rules.
But they have to have policies for this stuff too.
Well, but then in the end, it's like people can break policy people do it all the time.
You know, they get evicted too because.
They do, but like then when you have kids that are involved and you go to the courts and you say like, I got custody, the Cry Me a River song,
Guess
then
who
you
guess who
can't-
they lean to it?
you can't throw my 5-year-old, granddaughter out on the streets, we have nowhere to live, and then, well, you have to live there, and then, we fight it, and then we appeal it, and then, 6 months later, and then,
Yeah, that's,
before you know it, the kid's graduating college.
I was just gonna say that.
So I do know one of the answers to that over in Tara Estates is, we just had someone go through that over in one of the 55 and older communities in Dover, that they get a warning, and then after that warning, they have X amount of days to prove that that person's not there. And then if that person still resides there, I think it's $1,000 a day fine
Oh, wow.
in Dover, until they get that person on and they keep track of it.
That's with the community charging that,
Yeah.
though, right? And those, remember, those communities are well-staffed and financed with,
Good
terrorists.
attorneys.
Yeah.
Yeah, with attorneys.
Are those the, like the, I don't wanna say town-owned or state-owned, but like they're,
There are 55-plus communities, and we had an issue where the almost kind of what you asked about them getting custody of their kids, but then
Yeah.
they got custody of the grandchildren because both of their parents perished.
yeah,
So they got custody, but then their uncle started living there with them because they thought they were gonna get around the loophole on that. But then they came in with the sheriff and said, this is your final warning, if you don't get out of here, you're gonna start getting charged with $1,000.
But that takes legal action, and
Right.
that takes money.
Yeah.
But that's the park owners that have to do
Yeah.
that, not the towns.
not the town.
Right.
Because that's a violation of a contract. It's
Right.
like,
Then could we go after so I'm worrying about the money and the cost to our very
enforce the
little-
ordinance, to enforce the ordinance.
Yeah, for them to enforce it.
So if the,
Because honestly, a park owner, he's worried about making money, so it's like and not spending money. So, I mean, it would be nothing for them to just turn a blind eye and be like, I see nothing as long as the
But
rent
if
keeps coming.
if these people get fined at $1,000 a day, that's money in his pocket.
Right.
It is, but it's also
Collective.
got the legal fees,
collective, that's another issue, collective.
yeah. And exactly, like, you can't get blood from a rock.
Right.
I mean, the property.
Yes, but then they end up losing their property. and
There you go,
the owner of the
yeah.
park
Right, that's what I
sells
just
it,
said.
takes the profit anyway.
Yeah.
So they get forced to vacate if they don't
That's
follow.
right.
At the end of the day, I would look at the cost of how it impacts the town, the schools, and all of
Okay,
that.
through all of this conversation now in an over 55 park,
Uh-huh.
we cannot prohibit them from putting that park in.
Yeah.
We
No.
can only regulate
Yeah.
how many homes go in there
Mhm.
and that they're abiding by what we request
Mhm.
with regard to water supply and all of that. That's all we can do. We cannot prohibit them from doing the park.
No, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm all for that. I think many towns and many areas need that. There's definitely a need for it because of fixed incomes. I worry about those outlier things that end up costing everyone else a lot of money, especially if you're gonna impose an impact fee, because then I look at it as, well, what if I decide to go and build a house in another part of the town, and then I get charged an impact fee for the school, but then I look and I'm like, well, there's, 3 of those houses that have kids in them, and they didn't have to pay anything.
Well, we'd have to set it up more or less as including everybody and then issue waivers as we see fit to do it.
Yeah, because you can issue a waiver
Right,
on an impact fee.
right.
And any resident that's impacted by the impact fee can request a waiver.
So if somebody did come to the planning board and say, I want to do a 55-plus community and it's not going to have any kids, can we put in like stipulations that they have to put in somewhere, writing or contracts or something with verbiage saying like no children or no people under
They would do that
55?
anyway.
You would do that, I guess you would do that in an ordinance?
Right, we would do it in an ordinance.
Yeah,
They
So we
put
would
it
have
in their
a
contracts.
55. Okay.
Now, my question goes back to daycare centers. We had a woman on Silver Street who came to me back last winter and wanted to do before and after school care. And she didn't have to come to us. What she needed to do was go to the state, to the licensing board, and find out what she had to do. She has to go to the fire department, the highway department, code enforcement, and then I didn't hear no more from her, and the licensing board, because only they can determine how many kids you can have in your home by the square footage. So I thought she took care of that because now it's out of our hands. Well, first Chuck Terrio called me, and then Robin contacted me last week. I guess she's at it again, And I don't know what her issue is. She came before the planning board. Remember back when she came in here and she had paperwork? She was with the woman who had the daycare center up on Chuck's property. And she had paperwork that had to be filled out. And when we looked at it, it wasn't for the planning board, it was for the zoning board to fill out. She didn't need a special exception or a special condition from us.
It's allowed, it's allowed.
It's allowed, and it was in her home. So, nobody knows, I guess, what happened to the paperwork. And that was Ken Anderson's thing, because he was the original chair of the ZBA. I have no paperwork. We gave it back to her and told her she had to contact them. So, I mean, I don't know if she's got the daycare center going or not. But it has nothing to do with us. She's got
If
it.
it's allowed, does she have to have a permit from the code enforcement, a building permit?
No, she just has to have inspections. I already talked to the woman at the licensing board. I have a good rapport going with this one. And I contacted her and asked her what to do, and she gave me all the information to tell anybody, because there were 3 in town that were looking for daycare centers. I'm not sure that any of them have done
There's
what
some
they're
very
supposed to.
specific items at the daycare centers in a certain part of the ordinance. In the
Not
residential
really.
zone,
It's not, huh?
in the residential zone,
Daycare center is allowed in-home. You can't open a daycare center without going
so I
through.
thought I was reading something.
No, I looked at it. It's very vague what we have in the book. We need to have something more concrete. But she could go ahead and do it. I mean, she's looking at 3 to 5 kids, but she needs to go through the state and get the forms that the highway department and everybody has to fill out. The highway to make sure she's got enough room for so many vehicles. Fire department, make sure she's got her fire alarms and everything there. Code to make sure her home is up to, you know, building code and everything. And beyond that, just having the licensing board come in. And I don't think any of us, correct me if I'm wrong, Robin, I don't think any of us have gotten a legitimate answer on why this has come up again.
Why would we be involved?
Yes, no?
It was brought up at the zoning board,
So
and
she
Chuck
wasn't-
had something, I don't know what documentation he had, if it was.
Was she
from
there?
you or from her, no.
So she needed a special exception from the ordinance to put in a.
No, she didn't need a
daycare.
special exception. What she needed was, there was paperwork that zoning had to fill out. Probably, I don't recall offhand, but was it in the right zone for a daycare? And yes, it is. I
Well, she'd
mean,
have to be refused by the planning board, sent to the zoning board. No?
this paperwork came from the state. It didn't come from us.
Well, why does it gotta
The
go to
state
the zoning
sent it.
board if she's?
If she, it depends where she.
Just for them to sign off on it. It's all we could figure out. Roxanne sat here and read the paperwork too. And we just handed it back to her and said, you need to contact them. We don't, this is out of our hands. And you're right, because all they can do is issue variances.
Now,
or
did the state
exceptions.
update any of their rulings to where maybe
I
it
don't
got
know.
bounced back?
I looked online to see if there was any state regs. Nothing.
I was
Nothing.
saying special exception, I should have said variance, right?
Well, either way, she didn't need it.
Where
I mean,
she's
if it was-
located in the rural residential zone.
Right, and it's allowed.
It's
But,
actually even more allowed in this area because the lot sizes are smaller.
yeah.
How are they gonna put a mobile home park without, but the lot size being 5 acres?
No, not in a mobile home park.
No?
No.
State regulates that.
All you need to be is the setback, so 20 feet.
There's a minimum, there's a minimum size acreage you gotta have that you can put on so many per, no?
No.
You
All
could,
it has to be is from the property line to your house, 20 feet on the side, and from the property line to the next house, 20 feet, so you're 40 feet between homes. That's it.
So what's the point in the zoning ordinance?
I looked that up too. That's why I said we've got to have better laws. There's more restrictions on a campground than there is in a mobile home park.
It makes no sense.
I know.
Yeah, especially when you're doing like septic and everything.
Yeah, but see, there's only technically 1, maybe 2 septic systems, because it would all go into one.
It's not in, each one doesn't have its own
No.
individual septic.
No,
And there will probably be a community well as well.
right, and that's the thing that,
Which is scary.
it would be a community well, and that's the thing that bothers me.
Is this gonna be the one down by us?
Huh?
This is the one down by us?
Yeah, on the corner of New Durham and Silver Street.
We get
It's like
water, I
90.
believe.
97 acres in there. The real estate agent had contacted me and wanted to know if I could go out there and see if there was enough of the snow was gone that their surveyor could get in there. I laughed at him.
What is it?
I
Is
laughed.
that where they
I
just
said,
put out all that?
first of all, I can't go out my front door, I'm restricted. And second of all, let your surveyor determine that.
Where the old priest owns, is that lot?
You got the kind of money you
No,
got for
that
something like
is-
this,
I think
you
it's
can
like
afford
the-
to send your little
the new
surveyor out there and,
Oh, where it
Split.
splits,
I believe so. Janet, it's the New Durham Silver Split, right?
where it splits?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
right there on that corner where
Yeah.
it splits. And that's where road resurfacing and stuff comes in. Because we can request of them so many feet on either side. There's gonna be two entrances, one
One
on New Durham Road, on the dirt road, and we can require that they build that road up so many feet on either side of the entrance, and the same thing on Silver Street. We can request a bond for that.
could we request that they pave it?
Oh,
And
yeah.
not dirt it?
yeah, to make it road town.
They're supposed to upgrade, yeah.
Yeah.
Is 97 acres there?
Apparently so, I'm like,
Wow.
What?
Cause you,
I
there's
didn't realize there's that
97
much.
acres there?
Yeah. I look at it and I say, where?
Yeah, because you got Tammy Bailey's house there, and then you
Yeah.
got the other one
Sierra.
up on New Durham
Yeah.
Road, but unless it
Well,
goes straight
and
back.
once you go
Go
down,
straight back,
once you go
Yeah.
down to Durham Road, doesn't some of that become like, because there's like a, I don't want to say a trail sign, but is it like town or state park or something like that? Because I remember seeing
If
like
there is something
an
like that
official
there,
sign.
then they can't build on it. And they would have to show it on their plans. And right, the only plan I have is of the park.
Okay.
But I mean, these are things that now we gotta start looking at because we don't have anything really concrete. A lot of it is vague.
See, I thought we were protected because we had a 5-acre minimum in the rural residential.
No.
And I didn't think we allowed trailers.
They're not trailers, Kate.
Or manufactured home.
Yes, manufactured housing. They might have a steel frame, but once those wheels are removed, they go back to the manufacturer. Those homes and axles, the wheels and axles are removed, they are no longer movable.
There was Middleton.
I get so mad when somebody says trailers.
You don't say that to a realtor, you're gonna get mad too.
When I can buy a double-wide manufactured home for $150,000, and I can't build a house for $150,000.
That's pretty sad that
Sorry.
every manufacturer costs that much money.
Oh, yeah,
It's, because they're not.
because they're not what
built or
they used
worth
to
it.
be. You don't have these panels that have that strip down the middle now, they're sheetrock walls and everything.
What is it, 2x4 construction?
Yeah,
Yeah,
It is?
yeah,
yeah.
Oh.
And they use the thinnest sheetrock they can get. Yeah.
Now, some towns require, go beyond what the state requires in terms of the pad.
right,
Like, I think Rochester requires a concrete pad,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They require it, they're not
They
supposed to
require
do
it.
that.
Some towns require a pad and a frost footer. Which,
I
for
think
the
it-
pad,
I think it's smart because it protects, I mean,
absolutely.
you start throwing whatever you want to call them, any which way you want.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, 5 years later, 6 years later, it looks pretty dumpy. And then you put in, 50 to 100 of those in there,
Drive-
letting them park them however they want, and it
Drive
looks
down
really
Salmon Falls
luxurious.
Road and see all the new ones going up there on the way to Terra Estates, yeah.
Go down Cocheco and look at Peaceful Pines, not the old entrance, but the new one. You got that great big field there?
Yeah.
The very first house, we owned that, we bought it brand new. And that's 20 years, 20 years ago, 21 years ago.
Yep.
And that house is in good condition now on the outside as it was when we bought it. I don't know what it's like on the inside these days with the people that have bought it, but that house, the inside of that house was beautiful.
So you're telling me these trailers?
Okay.
That word.
Manufactured home.
Just joke, I was trying to.
Yeah, I know, she's just trying to get me.
We have trailers. They're not supposed to be where they are.
Whatever.
A trailer is something you hook on the back of your vehicle to go camping in.
Not
That's a
supposed,
trailer.
not supposed to be on a property more than 6 months.
That's right.
That's
It's in the
not,
book.
that's not enforced, I can tell you that.
That's just enforcement, that's all that is. Okay.
I remember I got into it with Evelyn a couple of years ago. She was talking about they were gonna put all single wides in back of her home. And, oh my God, she went off the deep end. I said, can't stop them. What's in the covenants? I said, well, you gotta look up the definition of a trailer.
How's this gonna help our taxes? How are they taxed? You lived in.
The homes are taxed, the land is not, because they do not own the land. But a home is taxed as if it were a home.
So we have how many of them coming in?
They would be, they're requesting on the plan 100. I don't see that happening.
You know,
And even if
will
they
all
were able,
expand sizes?
by the time they get all the homes in that they want, you're looking at a good 6, 7 years before they're all in there to begin with. And I don't think they're putting single wides in, I think they're all double wides.
I'm trying to look at this optimistically. How is this gonna help our taxes? Is it a negative impact or is it a positive?
Well,
Probably
also
gonna
depends on
balance.
what the value is.
The value.
So if property values stay high the way they are, I mean, I know a couple people in town that live in a manufactured home. See, I can say it. And the value of theirs is like crazy high. I personally
Right.
think because it's a manufactured home and
Will
it's,
it suppress the values of the places around them? I don't know, just asking questions.
They have to be new homes that are going in there to begin with. They have to be brand new homes that are going in there. I don't believe, I know when we were living in the one in Farmington, when we first bought a house, we bought our own home and we did not buy it from the park owners. And I don't think you have to buy it from the park owners, but it
Terrace
has to be.
Estates you do,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
I think a lot of them are getting that way now.
because
But you can kind of pick out what you want, and they'll find it, and of course, they jack up the price when they do that, so.
and the prices of those now have like,
Yeah.
they're crazy expensive now.
Yeah,
But if you look at, I don't know what a manufactured home would be assessed at, don't know. But,
just as a regular home, regular single-family
okay,
home.
so they're on a very, they're on a very small plot. So how many trailers, how many manufactured homes would be on a 5-acre lot? So, let's say a manufactured home is assessed at, I don't know, 150,000.
Yeah, okay.
Something like that, okay, 150,000. And they have 2 children, $150,000 house tax bill would probably be in this town $5,000 maybe.
Depending on where you look.
Okay, maybe. $5,000.
$5,000 living on the lake,
No, double that.
More than that.
well, for you, I'm not right on the water.
Okay, so let's say it's $5,000. They have 2 children. What does it cost to
18,000,
no, keep going.
19,
Well, not 19, 17.
17.
17,000. So we're in the hole. Of the $5,000 of taxes, not all goes to the school.
So these roads.
60% goes to the school.
So the roads that they will be building it'll be a insular park with roads that they
Yeah.
arrange.
There has to be open space.
So we don't have to worry about that.
Has to be playground.
And there has to be, not enough over 55, but there does need to be 25%
Open
green
space.
space, open space, like park benches and stuff. But in an over 55, it wouldn't be a playground, thank you.
And then it'll be fire
You
protection.
don't know,
Right?
for the dogs.
So, do you have any indication of what 100 homes will do to our police
Don't jump the
force
gun
and
on this,
fire
because I
protection?
honestly don't think it would come down to 100 homes.
Those are questions that can be addressed at the hearing.
Yeah, when and if it ever
If,
comes
when
to
and if he
fruition.
ever comes with a site plan, because he's
Yeah.
gonna have to come with a site plan.
Yes, he
And
is.
those
So
are
it's a
the,
big process.
those are the questions that would be asked, what's that gonna impact on the aquifer? What's that gonna, how are you gonna do the sewage? What are you gonna do? How, just like Mr. Terrio's proposed, housing project that he was gonna do down there. Just like he was proposing for the golf course and hotel casino that he was gonna do down there.
I was gonna get a job there, what happened?
Roger wanted the golf course to go in so bad so he could just run around the golf carts and be a ranger.
Yeah,
That didn't happen.
no.
So, I mean, the other thing about school, and we're running over, but the thing about schools is just because you have 2 kids, it's not gonna cost you $17,000 for each child, because $17,000 is a fixed cost of the school. The lights are always on whether you have a full body or a half. The teachers, for the most part, are in the classroom whether they have 12 students or 26 students. The administration is still there, the parking lot is still there, and the buses are still there. Whether you, it's when you start going over and you have to add infrastructure and bodies. So if you're under, which we are, but we're over in grades, that's the dilemma the school board has, I think, what to do. So when we add, and in this town here, when you bring, let's say somebody builds a new home or moves in with children that wasn't there before, it's a change of demographic. Yes, more kids are coming in, but our school's fixed cost to a point.
Makes a lot of sense. Is this thing gonna make my decrease my taxes, they stay the same, or will my taxes go up?
On the long run, I don't know, it depends on how many come in.
Maybe not.
Well, it also depends on what the town budget is in the school
See, when they
budget.
start,
Correct.
I mean,
and when they start cutting down trees in there, there's gonna be a lot of change too, and that's why I want all these water surveys done. Because it changes,
That's right, it changes the outcome.
Yep.
Groundwater.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
all in favor.
We got off on a ramble.
John makes a
That's
I
okay.
have one question.
Yeah,
Because that's the same thing I have mine.
Taxes on
this is right there.
Yeah, I saw that.
No,
The mobile home park,
you're renting the plot.
Right, but who owns that
It all
lot?
depends on what size.
the
it is.
land,
The
park owner.
Manufactured homes are-
And
He
it's not
pays-
paying tax.
He
Yeah.
pays taxes.
You figure a basic
So
Absolutely.
somebody,
manufactured
Somebody
home
pays
is
tax,
just
yeah,
a
no,
single
yeah.
wide.
Well, and the
So
value
the
of
homeowner
those have
pays
like
tax on the
skyrocketed and over
The
the years.
homeowner pays taxes on the house,
It's just,
they pay lot
it's
rent,
ridiculous how much they
they
cost.
pay lot rent on the
Like,
lot, but they
We could have
don't-
bought one, we
don't
were
get
looking to
taxed.
move back down to Tennessee before we moved to New
They don't
Hampshire.
get taxed, but
You're gonna be
the,
on
We
Tuesday.
own
person
15
owning the
acres
home
and we
doesn't
have a
get
single
taxed
wide.
on
I
Yeah,
will
single-
totally explain the,
as long as you
Well,
drive
single
that one
wide.
year and I know.
And
I
we
do
got
have-
rid
Would
of
that
it.
be a co-op, or would it be?
And
No.
we had thought about building because
I know one
I
park down
saw,
in
I was
Rochester.
looking at all
it's a
our
co-op.
options and I saw this beautiful lot.
That's
this
what I
way.
was thinking. I guess
And I was like, hey,
most of them aren't.
there's that, and there's
Too
only
much.
15 acres, we have 15 acres.